Amen. All right, we will start. It's in the middle of this section that begins on page Chav Ches, b'makim achem mevur. We are talking about the phenomenon of the oir, of the various kinds of oir of chesed, oir of gevurah. Because oil is essentially coming from the earth and from the source, and therefore that oil really includes everything. It is neither chesed nor gevurah, and on that basis, it is explained that the principle of oil ha-chesed nor ha-gevurah is actually affected into the oil as a result of the kuli in which it is functioning. And on that basis, we have defined 3 stages in the hashpah from the Rab to the Talmud. Stage 1 is called the oir, which is the way, this is essentially the Sechel as it is by the Rab himself. And then there is Mayim. Mayim is as it is nimshpa, drawn from the Rab to the Talmud in the process of drawing it. It's still not comprehended by the Talmud. And then there is Rukiya, where that solidifies. What?
Glida.
Glida Maya.
Glida Maya. This is still water.
Glida.
So we discussed yesterday the principle of Sechel. Where Sechel, at its essence, before it is applied to any particular question, in a particular situation, Sechel per se already provides a perspective on a reality basis. One of the ways that we can identify with this principle is that we said many times that if you see a person, a lost soul like the Nebuchadnezzar, is running in, living in the gutter, a homeless person who goes from one hiding place to another hiding place. Yet, we all recognize that there is an intelligence, an inherent intelligence in this entity, although he has not trained it at all in terms of application. This intelligence is his recognition and awareness that there is reality to existence, to life. And we explained what meant reality. Reality means that life is not merely reactionary. In other words, only on protecting yourself against some intruder. There is a positive, a wholesome in life itself. For this we have many mishalim that focus our attention to this inyan. And here is where we readily identify that this is that the Sechel. You know that the human being, if he lives in shelters and lives in homelessly, no matter how he adapts to it, he is out of place there. He knows that he is not where he should be. Lahavdil, a dog does not have that sense. A dog also suffers from cold and from heat and from hunger. But it does not have this reality element. This is the way it should be. There's a meaning to this. It's just the effect of the hunger, the cold. A human being, we all recognize, no, there is a completely different perspective. This is the Sechel element. It has to be developed. But developed is in order to identify various situations and learn how to cope with them and to relate to them and to behave and so forth. But how to behave, let me step back just 1 second. When you have a human being who needs to be taught how to live a normal life, you know that you have something to work with. He'll have to control himself. He'll have to be perhaps disciplined, but you know that ultimately he will learn and he will appreciate it and he'll understand what you're teaching him. And that which he'll understand will be something that he readily will accept. He will personally understand it. If you are going to undertake to train a dog, there is no initial beginning, so there's a basis for training. He is going to be trained by you, by habit. And no matter how much he learns about it, it will always going to be reactive. In other words, if I do it right, I'm going to get whatever in my mouth. And therefore I'm going to do it the next time. A dog remains a dog no matter how much training he goes through. And the famous story with the Rambam. It doesn't have a basis for relating to these things. In contrast to the human being, Lahavdil, in this case you can say Lahavdil even if Hagoyim. It's a different creature. This is what we mean by Sechel. The neshama, the nefesh, is a godly reality. The Sechel reflects this reality. To demonstrate this on the simplest level possible, I'd like you should understand. We bring a table into the room. There's many places where you can put the table. You will put the table in a place where the table will not interfere with your activities, with your walking, with your sitting, with whatever it is. But ultimately, you'll put the table in a place where it belongs. It will not be based on interference, on some kind of a practical reaction. You place it where it belongs. In your dining room, you have a table, the most economical way to put the table is against the wall in the corner. Then it will be hearing, it will interfere with your activities much less than any other place. And yet you don't put it in the corner. You put it in the middle of the room. That's where it belongs. It enriches the room by its presence. This is Sechel, because this reflects some kind of a neshama reality. This is where it belongs. What do you mean a table belongs? A table doesn't belong any place. I just brought it from Macy's. This Sechel, as the Rebbe says, this initial Sechel, this is how it is nishpa in the Mashpia or Makabel. Or in our case, if you're talking about natural Sechel, this is how it's nishpa from the neshama. And on this level, the judge for it is the neshama itself. If it is otherwise, you feel uncomfortable. Something doesn't jive. Something doesn't fit. A table that's put in the corner of the room, the dining room table in the corner of the room, is some kind of an insult. Going on a higher level, the Sechel or Rav, and the Rav is teaching, is giving a Sechel, explaining the godly presence in the world. How do you recognize the godly presence in the world? Not the human presence, on a higher level. It's a similar thing. There is the initial Sechel or Rav, the way it is by the Rav, and then it is brought down to the Talmud. And again, the Talmud has a means by which he will acclimate, he will recognize the Sechel. Even though initially the Sechel comes in the form of oir, which means it has no compelling element at all. There's the Rav, and I know therefore there has to be the right way of doing things. This is the oil of the Rav itself, himself. And then, but this is where it translates into Sechel. Sechel means that yes, you know the truth, but this truth has a context. There's a world where it is manifest, where it's applicable. And this is why we immediately go and say, okay, what is that? What is its effect? Its effect is chesed or gevurah.
What is the last step over there? There is a reality, and therefore it has an effect that's either chesed or gevurah.
Reality on the world level, since world is multidimensional, therefore it's a question of which direction you're going to go, this way or that way. On the higher level, it's an akula.
Mm.
Let's take, as we started, a kind of a conclusive type of an illustration. You have a dog, you will not invite a dog into your home. Forget it. Hopefully, depends who you're talking about. A dog doesn't belong in a human abode. A human being does belong amongst human beings. But then it depends also what kind of human being he is and what is your relationship with him. There's a human being that you will invite him, stand by the door, and I'll bring out some food to you. It's not the one that you invite to your table. So that reflects itself in the form of chesed and gevurah. A dog doesn't go in, it doesn't apply this quality of chesed and gevurah. It just doesn't belong there.
At the beginning today, we revisited this light, water, and rakia, firmament. And then from there we went to say, yesterday we talked about Sechel. Is Sechel here corresponding to Mayim?
Sechel corresponds to Oyer, Mayim, and rakia. As we pointed out, the reason you're going to teach a human being is not because he already learned, but because he has the basis for learning. That's the oyer.
This that you're illustrating with chesed and gevurah is to show that they operate within the context of Sechel?
Yes, Sechel illuminates the world and brings out qualities of chesed and gevurah. Because I said, once you go into a multi-dimensional area, you have to know which way are you going. And the kuli is not world.
So which way you're going is already corresponding to rakia, like some kind of...
Which way you're going is corresponding to mayim. And then by rakia, this is when it gels. When the decision mayim, already you begin to identify there is multi-dimensions, multi-directions. You can go in the oyer. There is not a sense that you have to make a choice which way to go.
And it was also brought out that life is not reactionary or circumstantial. And here this point that it comes down into so-called circumstances and devolves, expresses gevurah, chesed, but that's not...
But it's not dependent on it.
Right, what is that? It's not circumstantial. What's the process? What's happening?
Circumstantial, the term circumstantial means that the circumstance creates the reality. You're hungry, so you eat. That's circumstantial. You only eat because eating is a proper human activity. A human being has to live in a home in a normal way, not because he has to protect himself against the elements. But that's the right way person to live.
So it's within the realm of definition, yet it's not driven by the circumstance.
That's exactly right. This is when it comes down to the realm of definition, but not the definition is what creates it. Like you said before, you put a table in the middle of the dining room, but that doesn't make any sense. Then every time you walk into the dining room, you have to go around the table. And yet that's where you're going to put it. If you put it in the corner, you're self-insulting. Okay? Alright, and it said we are on the line that begins with kuli. It's in the middle, almost smack in the middle of that paragraph, of that section on ches. We have to make the next step. It explains elsewhere.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take advantage of what you said last night to ask this question. With all of these differences, what do you want us to understand here?
The principle of Sechel.
The principle of Sechel. And that principle is, what are we supposed to understand about it?
That Sechel provides the human being not with functioning direction. To get here, you have to turn this way. But just that there is a reality. That's Sechel. Sechel is an emanation from the Nefesh. Nefesh is a godly reality. It's a human reality. And Sechel is that reality as it is recognized on the worldly level. If you see a person on your path, you walk on the extreme, you're not going to walk into the person and say, "Oh, excuse me, I have to go around." No, go around to start with. Why? Because if you walk into him, he's going to kick you. Because there's a reality. He belongs there. He has the right to be there. And you recognize that. And you're going to walk around because that's the reality. That's the right way to do it. That's the truth. It's a Sechel element. The Gemara says, you feed a dog, hold a stick in your hand as you're feeding him. So after you feed him, hit him on the head, so he won't come back again. Otherwise it's going to be just forever. A human being you feed is as exalted. It's a different kind of activity. Avraham Avinu was feeding these barefoot Arabs. What did he want from them? He should thank Hashem. Don't even thank me. Avraham Avinu had donkeys also, and he fed them. He didn't ask him to thank Hashem. They too got their food from Hashem, but they had no such obligation. You have to make the next step. At least we know that we've learned something inside. Okay, and the line begins with kuli. It's explained elsewhere. Sheyesh bechinas oir mayim rokiya adrum hamaylos. That these three bechinas, these three aspects of oir, mayim rokiya, as we explained, that oir is all three refer to hashpah milmaylo lamatu, from the Rav to the Talmud or any other circumstantial hashpah. Oir is the hashpah in its inception, as it is in the source. Mayim is as it moves from the source out towards the recipient. Rokia is when it reaches the recipient, it becomes a presence by the recipient. And here is a perfect example. If you followed all our discussions about a cup is a human vessel, the proper way to disseminate drink to the human being, retaining his dignity, his human dignity. That's what a cup is. Then there is how this water is being poured into his mouth. Then he swallows it. And that's when it becomes just plain water. It becomes plain water. But how did he get it? He got it in the process of hashpah. And therefore, when he swallows the water, he swallows plain water, and it's not plain water. It's water that came through a certain process. And he can relate back to the mayim and to the oir element. Okay, this is it for this morning. Have a great day.
See you too.